Okay, the last talk of this session is Professor Theng Leng from Nanyang Technical University in Singapore, modeling and optimization of home care and caregiving services for the elderly. You have your own machine? We need you.
Wait a second. Okay. Good afternoon. Yes, this is side talk where I'm actually between you and lunch. It's very tough. Okay, so take my time. Okay. Yeah, thank you, and thank you for the invitation to present here. I think I'm going to actually, give this talk. This is very different from the other, few presentations this morning. I will start off with actually giving a brief, introduction of myself to give a context of what I'm actually going to share. Right, so I'll go on to the aging landscape. Two examples in terms of looking at how human-computer interaction can be used for understanding or helping in terms of the elderly aging well and aging actively, and some of the lessons learned. Right. So my background is in human-computer interaction, experimental user experiences. So, the way that I will be actually looking at the project will be from this perspective. And it's from the perspective of interaction design for health and well-being. I think we have heard about human-computer interaction. It actually talks about user experiences. It could be user experiences from, the look and feel, the usability, but it goes beyond that. I think in recent years, it's gone into what we call UX design, interaction design, and so on. Reason is because it goes beyond just an interface. Right? And it requires a group of people working together from different disciplines. So with that, I want just to highlight two principal concepts in looking at interaction design or UX design, and that is actually the two concepts of usability and usefulness. Usability is a concept of looking at the system, and I said, I know how to use it. It's intuitive. I know how to actually play around with it. It's not difficult. I can remember. Usefulness is really the concept of, is it actually designed for the purpose it's supposed to be designed for? So if there's an ATM machine, it should dispense cash. If there's a mobile phone, it should help me to make phone calls, for example. Right, so with that, I'm going to actually talk a bit about the aging, situation in Singapore. Now, aging is a big problem in Singapore. We are aging faster than predicted. So in the year 2030, we'll be about 25 to 27% of the population, 65 years and above. So the government in the year 2015 has actually launched, an initiative to support aging-related research. So from the year 2015 to 2022, we have this 7 years of funding where the government has actually put aside 200 million of money to actually support aging research. Right? What are some of the aging concerns? Elderly suicides. We talk about technologies, we talk about smart, technology, smart nation, but technological disruptions is actually also causing people to lose their jobs, right? And you also have elderly, involved in accidents, right? Living arrangements of elderly in Singapore, more and more of them are living alone. And, it's like that could actually present some issues, especially where the big question yesterday, it's like Dana was actually talking about loneliness is a problem in Singapore. And, I remember when I was talking to the CEO of the National Healthcare Group, which is one of the 3 healthcare clusters in Singapore, and he said that don't tell me about healthcare, it's like just solve the problem of social isolation. And that was his actually, his advice to us in a rise. So I would like to talk a little bit about the institute that I have been tasked to set up at the university. It is the Aging Research Institute for Society and Education. It is a University Research Institute, and the vision is to empower the aging community and improve the quality of life. We look at healthy, active, and independent individuals. NTU is a technological university, so we focus a lot on technologies, but with support from different disciplines to understand meaningful social integration and productivity, and also understanding the aging-related psychosocial issues. When I was asked to write the white paper, we were looking at, research within NTU. We mapped up upwards, bottom up. There were 4 thrust areas, of folks working in aging-related work. Thrust 1 looks into aging medicine. So a lot of, the work that we have actually heard, during this conference and in the Dead Sea, summit, we have colleagues working in those areas. Trust 2, social integration, education. Trust 3, aging in place. Trust 4, lifestyle care and lifestyle enhancement. Across the university, with a RISE being set up in 2016, we see a rise in faculty engaging in aging-related research. We started off with 100. Last count was about 200, and these are people with research grants. Right? So what are the outcomes? When we actually talk about, the trust, we wanted to actually see how do we measure them, and we look at trust 1, where you have aging medicine, healthy aging, to promote physical well-being through prevention, delay onset of disease. Trust 2, graceful, engaged, and productive aging, to maintain and enhance social integration, participation, and productivity. Trust 3 involves a lot of our colleagues from computer science to provide friendly and safe environment to enable independent living, as well as Trust 4, quality aging. What does that mean? To maintain and improve quality of life via care intervention and innovation in technology. So when we did a mapping up, so this is actually what we came up with. Under the different verticals, the different trust, aging medicine, social integration, and education, we see that in the middle portion, so you have the strengths and the focus areas, but we also have emerging areas that are becoming our strengths through grants and through seed funding. But there are a lot to do, and there are, our trust leads, we have actually focused on specific, 3 to 4 areas that we work in the different trust. Right? Now, what then is the focus? I mentioned about, the healthcare system in Singapore is actually moving away from the clinical care is important, medicine is important. They think that, all these things we have been doing, but what is it? Why is it that we are not helping people to, leave the hospital faster? Why is it that, people are getting sick? Why is it that certain individuals are consuming more of the healthcare cost? So in Arise, we actually look at it from a, ecosystem perspective. There are, a few areas of focus. One is on the personal health, community health, and workplace health. And when we actually look at health research focus, there are so many different ways in which we can actually address an issue. So we look at promotive, preventative, because that's where 80% of the population will be, And this is actually where the resources we want to actually put into. We have curative, rehabilitative, and palliative. So how would ARISE actually help to coordinate? We would actually look at certain problem and trying to get our colleagues from different disciplines to work together. Outcome measures, what is it that we want to actually see? Is it a mindset change? It's like yesterday I spoke about, it's like healthcare. A lot of aspects of healthcare is about the social aspects. So it's about mindset change, behavioral change, sociability, lifestyle, policy. So depending on what the research questions are, we will actually be bringing people together to work on the problem, right? So the outcome is really live well, age well, and then age smart. Right, and I'm going to actually go into the two projects. These are my two projects. I started, it's like, this is a project where I was given a funding, it's like about 7-8 years ago to look at technology for the elderly. It's like, so the A-STAR then, it's like, is a funding agency that actually gave a grant to say, okay, please do a study to understand, it's like elderly's perceptions of technologies. So I did, it's like an approach where I had many studies to study things like if I were to do, get the elderly to use technologies, what is it that I need to study? So first, I did a baseline study, and because I was actually doing a lot of game design, so we look into avatar, multimodality, intergenerational, aspects, and fitness. So the whole idea is actually to look at technology from three constructs. The three constructs of fun, friendship, and fitness. And we built, we built an Excel game. So this is what I came up with, virtual exercise therapist, and we capture the motions of the elderly doing exercise, and then converting the range of motion into energy expansion and calories burn. So we were very happy. We had good results. I think this is what we actually capture from the sensor data, right? We have very good results. They are enjoying the game, they have good interpersonal relationship, the fitness level, we can see that the more they exercise, we measure them in terms of energy expansion, calories burn, it's showing good results. However, within the, after we have actually moved out of the lab, all into the homes, we realized the elderly actually went back to their old, habit. They're not exercising. So that's where, we actually had this fun project. This is a community project. My chair said, I have a few $1,000, do something with the community. I said, fine, and this is what I did, what then are the motivational strategies? You see, within the lab, I can test the different variables, the relationships, but can I make the elderly, adhere to regular exercise? What then are the motivational strategies? So we actually organized a national game, and we had a competition, so in 2016, we went to 10 senior centers, and, we had about 122 elderly taking part in, the game competition. 2017, we have 300 over elderly, and last year we had about 500. I'm going to show, I hope I can actually show this. Okay. I would like to show, that even though we were doing things, within our laboratory testing, and we see promising results, but going into the community is actually a different set of factors that we have to actually study, right? So this is 2016. That's the finals. Oh, I don't have the sound. Sorry. Let me try again. I didn't. The sound is not there. Good, yeah. I heard the sound, yeah. Audio.
心了。
欢迎大家来到新加坡跨代全国游戏大赛。
But I hope that everybody feels a sense of pride and accomplishment for getting this far in the competition. So congratulations, do your best, and to all teams, good luck.
Team 1， 第一队 ，Please come to Station 5。首先呢，要玩 Fruit Ninja 2，就是要切水果。
第一次来参加，现在很兴奋，因为跟我们做啦啦队。
他切到苹果，很出力嘞，很酸嘞。
可以增加我们的知识嘞，增加我们的身体健康。
这手工啊的运动也很好，很好。
It's healthy and it's a form of exercise also, mentally and physically.
最后我们要打气，打气，打得更大声，让他们可以做得更好，好不好？安迪爬了很久，也很累了。
I can see that they really enjoy the games very well. I do see that some of them are able to use their hands more now. It's a good start, it's a good start.
All the elderlies are very competitive as well, so they are trying to outdo each other as well.
I think the most important thing in today's is that not only do the elderly have fun, it's like the volunteers will have fun with them.
这个学生做得很好，对老人，因为他老人不懂啊，他会帮你。
It's quite like first experience for me to actually play like Kinect with elderly. Yeah, it's quite a rare experience.
So this is the Minister for Health and this is the Vice President Research.
有拿到没有拿到，开心就好，happy 就好。明天我们来拿高个金杯回家哈，啊，最好是这样。
So this is actually what we wanted, it's like she was interested in, it's like exercise, but she was even more interested in actually, it's like bringing the trophy, right? Yeah. And what happened was that, it's like in 2018, we also, it's like we extended it to our colleagues because we have friends, it's like in Finland, in France, in Taiwan, and Japan. We may not have a lot of time to show this, but we actually have a game competition. We will want to welcome, it's like more countries to actually participate. We're going to actually have another one, which is the end of the year in November. So when we actually look at, it's like HCI, you begin to see that what we do in the laboratory is very different from what we actually do out in the, it's like the community. Now this is another project where, it's like it's a multidisciplinary team from, like engineering to, like to medicine to, like computer science and to information systems. What are the challenges? This is funded by the Ministry of Health, and the challenge is that there's a lack of caregivers. So what we are doing in this project is actually to build a home care and caregiving model for optimizing services for the elderly. And we built, we worked with 2 senior centers and we provided the system to be installed within the homes. Right? So the Ministry of Health wanted us to measure productivity of the, the manpower, capacity, as well as the quality of care. And they told us that you cannot increase manpower. So where do we find people? So we said that, okay, we look at volunteers. So they gave us, we work with them on the different KPIs, on productivity, on quality and capacity. Taking a usability engineering approach that is actually to really put the users at the focus of the design. Right? We have mock-ups, we have the different modules, so one is on resource allocation and management, analytics and reports and so on. I'm not going to show this, but when we actually look into building systems, to be put into the senior homes, yes, we look into prototyping, implementation and impact, understanding the users, prototyping, but we also need to do a lot of studies. And if some of us are actually familiar, you have the technology readiness level, TRL. A lot of times when we actually have projects or funding, we could go as far as only like 4 to 5 TRL. But when you actually bring it out to, the community, we need to be at level 8 or 9, right? And we're never, ready enough for the, for the market. When, there's not enough, users testing. And when I begin to actually implement things in the community, I realize that it's not just my effort. I can actually put something in the community, I can test for proof of concept, proof of value, but when it's actually been used by the community, it takes a whole of society approach. There are bodies that actually need to actually look into, and in terms of systems, there are no design standards and guidelines across the world. Right? Okay. Yeah, and very quickly we'll talk about, the urban problems. Aging is a big problem in, in urban cities and like Singapore. And, the Prime Minister has actually, launched this initiative on Smart Nation. And we are really looking into different aspects to make things smart. We talk about smart health, but here is actually where I would like to actually mention the caution. We are generating a lot of data. I'm actually an information systems person. We have so many people generating data. The old model is not just 1 or 2 companies generating data. All of us are also generating data and consuming data. We need a better way of doing so. Big data, there are myths, there are challenges, but there are also great possibilities. Great possibilities for us to, use them. What then can we actually talk in terms of big data for healthcare transformation? We can be looking at e-promotions, healthcare monitoring, but really, do we understand the unknown? Do we really understand, the interactions at the societal level? I would like to, urge, us to actually think a lot more about the data. We are getting data from both, new means and traditional means. And just concluding, when we design for health, for humanity, and for impact, it's really about designing knowing the people, knowing what the outcomes we are really achieving, taking, a systematic approach to design systems for acceptance and adoption. So in the earlier studies when we talk about, having this competition, we were not designing, in the laboratory, we were not designing for acceptance and adoption yet. But when we actually bring it out to the community, you actually have to scale it up at that level. And lastly, I just want to, this was actually something that I did after my PhD. It was a fun, article. And, it's really about, designing with the mind. All of us do that. But, from the lesson from HCI is really designing with the heart, right? And with that, I thank you.
We have time for a couple. That hungry?
Yes.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Please.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, good question. I think when we actually study, looking at technologies, we actually divide them into 2 groups. You talk about the different cohorts and so on. So 65 years and above, and then below 65. We recognize the differences. So we talk about the elderly of today elderly of the near future, and elderly of the future. I think, it's not really just concentrating on, the current needs, but also the needs of the future, because whatever that we design could be obsolete by then. But on the other hand, the need for the now is equally important. Yeah, good question. Thanks.
Number one health in the world. My question, a summary of best practices.
We are learning from the best also in the world. I think one of the, yes, we have women, actually the age is 60, I think 80. We were between 80 to 85. That's lifespan, but we want to look at health span. Is there good quality? And actually it is not. There are also, elderly in Singapore who are, having a lot of, problems. And one of the big problems is actually loneliness. So that's why, we are actually using different, ways and approaches to help to address this. And I also feel that, as I was actually working on some of these projects, this, we talk about this collaboration, there are also things that we would want to learn from other countries. So for example, solutions that have been actually, you find your solutions, you can also share with us. Yes, we'll be very happy to share it with, the rest, and just like the case of loneliness, we are struggling with this. Although I actually show you a very nice video of saying that, yes, we are able to bring the elderly to exercise. I'm only touching the tip of the iceberg, because the people who are coming to the center, they are already quite well socialized. But we are encouraging them to exercise. There are many of them who are actually in their homes, have no access to them at all. Researchers, we do not have access to them. So one of the other projects that we are working on is actually on health coaching. Our hypothesis is that, the elderly person with similar experiences but living well, aging well, will be a better health coach than someone who is young and may not know, much about, life and so on. So we are testing this out to find out that, what then are some of the things that we have to make it more, personalized and customized. And thank you very much. I'll be very glad to share. And one of the, the competition is something that we really hope that, there are people who compete. In fact, some of our colleagues from Finland, they're thinking that, next year, we might have the competition, in Japan, because that's the Olympics. Yes. Yeah, but if there is a little bit of time, can I play you the video? Is it possible? No.
Your citizens in Singapore are out to be the world champion in exercise games for senior citizens. And they feel good, they feel healthy, they're practicing their mobility, and they're doing it for Singapore.
I think it's very important that we find many occasions to engage and nurture the spirit of our seniors. Inside our seniors is a child that wants to play, that wants to mix with families and friends, and wants to be able to find purpose and meaning in their lives. And through occasions like today, we show them how they can do it quite easily and encourage them to come out on their own.
We want to see more centres in Singapore taking part, going beyond the senior activity centres as well as community centres and nursing homes, and also beyond Singapore to the rest of the world.
Thank you. I think this is just a fun project, and we hope that we can also see, if you are interested to participate, please let me know.